Hello, amazing people. Welcome to Passion Says Success, a show built to help you find your passion through the lens of successful individuals. Let's go.
Today, I have a special guest on the show who co-authored the Cybersecurity Career Master Plan book with me. His name is Dr. Gerald Auger, who has been professionally practicing information security for over 17 years and holds a Ph.D. in cybersecurity from Dakota State University. He is currently accountable for protecting and securing system and data at a mid-sized chemical manufacturing firm. Gerald is the chief content creator for the SimplyCyber Youtube cybersecurity channel. He's an adjunct faculty at the Citadel Military College. Okay, Gerald, you have been a great inspiration for the cybersecurity community in general, and for me personally. So I'm very glad you are here in the show, and thank you very much for being here. Is there anything you want to add to your bio, or you want to say hi to the audience?
Well, first off, Kim, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on Passion Set Success. I am quite passionate about cybersecurity, so I'm like excited to talk about it. I'd like to say, hi to my wife and children because they like to support me in all these efforts and endeavors I take on. So I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Yay. Me too. I'm very excited. So let's go right into the meat of the show, of this episode. So based on your background, if anybody knows you, right, they will know that your experience is a good mix between cybersecurity and education. And it's very easy to notice that you are very cybersecurity centric. However, before you step into cybersecurity and education, have you ever tried to work or experiment any other fields?
Yeah, so when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2003-ish, it was a computer science degree. And, cybersecurity wasn't even really a concept then. Like not even one of my classes in my curriculum was security focused. And I was kind of led down the path that when you get a computer science degree, you take, databases, networking, operating systems, data structures, you take all these courses. And in my mind, because no one corrected me, I thought these are all things that support you to be a software developer because you understand, like it was mostly model view controller type stuff, web apps at that time. So it's like, databases is the back end of my web app. Networking is how my pieces talk together. Data structures is how I, make it all work. So, I was a software developer. I dare say software engineer. I think I might be overstepping myself there. To my clients, my code worked great. To another software developer, it looked like, a kitchen junk drawer in a house that you've lived in for 10 years, like quite a train wreck back there, but the code worked. I'm not going to misrepresent that I was some, Da Vinci going on in the IDE or anything like that. But yeah, I had a brief stint as a software developer, probably like 2 years. And it was fun. There was a little bit of taste for cybersecurity at that point as you're writing like, authorization and authentication pieces, not necessarily writing them, but implementing them. Because, most programs you have modules you can bring in that'll handle that type of stuff. But yeah, so I had a brief stint as that. And then, obviously a handful of jobs like so many other people. Fun fact, Kim, for your show only, between graduating and getting my first software developer job, there was a 4-month hiatus, which was the summer of 2003 or whatever, where I was a mason tender. And for those of you listening who do not know what a mason tender it is, it's basically the lackey who carries the bricks for the mason. So a mason's like a bricklayer, and the mason has earned the right not to carry all these bricks everywhere. So 50 pounds on either side, 10 bricks at a time, and just lugging them wherever Greg wanted me to take them. So I was shredded after that summer for what it's worth, because I basically went to the gym for 8 hours a day. But But
you must have that hot body back then, right?
yeah,
Not the Professor Gerald look anymore.
not so much Professor Dad bod now, but yeah, but it was good. But I found my calling for sure in cybersecurity.
So you mentioned you have tried software development, right? And a little bit of cybersecurity taste. So what's the difference between software development and cybersecurity that got you more interested in cybersecurity? Or in another word, what do you find interesting in cybersecurity that keep you interested?
Yeah, well, I'm going to take my liberties with this one, Kim, because I feel like those are two different questions and quite broad in range. So as far as software development goes, taking back to what I just said about my undergrad, where I thought everything I learned was in support of being a software developer. So when I'm learning these authentication and authorization and auditing wasn't really a thing except for debugging, right? Like these are just things that I learned to help me be a better software developer. The moment that I got audited, my code got audited by an outside vendor, and it failed miserably. And this was like pre-FISMA. It was like FISMA was kind of coming on the scene. My client was the Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps. So I think that they were getting prepped for FISMA compliance. And like my code did horrible. And I was like, what do you mean it did horrible? Like get out of here with that noise. I know it's a mess back there, but it works, meets requirements, right, Kim? That's what we're searching for as developers. So they're like, no, like it's terrible. Look at this, this, and this. So I was like, oh my gosh, what are all these things? What's the point of it, right? So I started kind of uncovering like they were called security requirements or cybersecurity controls. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And fortunately, at the time, I worked for a company called Bearing Point, which was a spinoff of KPMG, which a lot of people are familiar with, big four firm. And because it was such a big four firm with a lot of really talented people working at it, I was able to do a little social engineering, OSINT work before I realized what that term is. I opened the Outlook GAL, right? So our global access list, and I've now got a Rolodex of 60,000 people, and I filter on their department or role, and I find cybersecurity, and I find these people, and then I found someone who was like a mid-level manager. Actually, I found like probably 24 mid-level managers, and I emailed all of them independently. And I said, hey, I'm some nerd in DC who does software development, but I just found out about this cybersecurity thing. It looks like that's what you do, period. Can we talk? And, I'd say of the 20 plus people I emailed, maybe 6 replied with like, here's a couple links to resources, beat it, kid. And one guy named Ray Sturby, I'll never forget this. He messaged me. He's like, yeah, let's talk. So I got on a phone call with this guy, and I'm like, I don't understand what this is, but I want to know. And he spent 20 minutes, and he basically like, I mean, it's like the sun rose on the day. Like he's like, it's this, there's this. I'm like, are you serious that you like vulnerability scanners, right? He's like, oh no. He's like, I'm like, do you like hack stuff? Right? Again, like kind of naive question that you get from a lot of people who don't know the industry. Do you hack stuff? He's like, no. I'm like, well then how do you like test things or whatever? He's like, oh, there's tools that do that. Like he's like a vulnerability scanning appliance. You just throw that on the network, point it at something, and it'll tell you everything wrong with it, like how to break into it. And I'm like, are you joking me? That sounds so powerful. And how is it that the bad guys aren't using it? He's like, oh no, the bad guys are using it. And then it became this really interesting problem. It's like if you're playing cards and everybody has their cards face up, how do you strategize? How do you deal with defending that? It seems insane. But he talked to me through it, and at that point I was like, oh my God, like I'm hooked, right? So like I started devouring as much as I could possibly get my hands on. I'd already gone back to school. Like, so this was like a year after that software development audit thing. I was trying to figure out how to get in. I went back to school, got a master's in computer science, thought that would help. It was fine, whatever. I was killing time waiting for my wife to graduate. And then I find out about all this stuff. And at that point I was like, I need to work in this field. Like I love this field. I'm drinking it. I'm drinking it up. I can't get enough of it. And there was less resources too back then. Like I've been saying this ad nauseum. If people who are listening to this are familiar with me, you've probably heard me say it. Like, we live in the golden age right now of access to resources, almost to a fault where like people are so overwhelmed with the amount of resources that they don't know where to start, which is why people like me and you, Kim, and the book we wrote, and Neil Bridges and Josh Mason, like there's so many people trying to point out, like, if you want to do this, these are the resources. If you want to do this, these are the resources, just to make it somewhat accessible and manageable, to avoid paralysis. But I was just trying to get as much as I could, and home labs, trying to hack some stuff. Metasploit was kind of in some version at that point. But yeah, and as a fun fact, I just want to share, I never met Ray Sturby. Never, ever physically met him in person. We had that call. We had that one call, and that one phone call changed my life. Like, I decided that is what I want. And I ended up, I've been in this field for 17 years. I have a Ph.D. in the field. I'm like in charge of a really big company's entire security. And I don't say that to boast. I say that like, this is how far I've gone down the road. And every like maybe 3 or 4 years, I will message that guy and be like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but like, I just want to thank you. Like, I've done that. Like, since I last messaged you, I've done this, this, and this. Like, it's all because of you. Like, you put me in the water and shoved the boat. And then my passion, it was the current that took me as far as I've gone. And, every time he's like, I know who you are, Jerry. Like, you message me every 3 years, like, stop. Like, I know who you are. And I'm like, okay, all right. Just being cool. Don't make it weird, man. But yeah, so thank you, Ray Sturby, if you're listening.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be very, very proud. And you gave me so much information right there to work with. There's so many hints for people who are listening as well, right? To kind of tell and feel related, I'd say. And one thing I really enjoy about that whole story is that basically your cybersecurity career kind of start with somebody telling you a no, right? You have your code audited and they think, well, this kind of sucks. And then that's the point for you to start another awesome thing. And I really love this attitude. You don't take it as something to put you down, but you rather go dig deeper into it and then find your career and find your passion. That's so cool. That is so cool. And you have a talk about also you like strategies, right? You like the fact that in cybersecurity, you need to think about strategies, how to deal with cyber criminals. And you seem like a very curious person, right? You like to look for resources by yourself, playing the labs. Do you think having those characteristics, maybe somebody who likes to play strategy games or a curious person, how benefited would be for them in this cybersecurity or computer science field in general?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, when we talk about, soft skills or kind of your human personality skills, we often talk about, and which ones are beneficial for having a career in the field. We often talk about initiative, proactivity, humility. And very, very seldomly do you hear curiosity, but it does pique my thoughts, Kim, that it really is an interesting one. You can be not curious and have a successful career. So I don't want to exclude those individuals, but curiosity is a very valid skill. And I want to tell you why. If you think about what security is, cybersecurity, it's literally protecting systems from doing things that they're not supposed to, or having people access them in the way they're not. So, one of the things that people often talk about is like, do I need to know IT, or how come an entry-level job requires IT experience? And the short answer to that is, like, in order to understand how something can be manipulated or circumvented or broken, like, you kind of need to understand at a high level how it's supposed to work. Like, what is it supposed to do? What is the expected behavior? And, to take a computer science term, like the finite state automaton, like how do you move from phases to phases, and what are the edges that that cause those shifts across the nodes. But once you understand that, then you can apply that curiosity to just say, like a simple example is like your username and password text field to log into a web app, right? Well, everybody puts in a username and password, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. A curious person puts in 8,000 characters and hits enter and sees what happens, right? Or they put in wingdings or glyphs or ASCII, or you know what I mean? Like they put in things that it's not expecting, or they put in nothing and hit enter and see what happens, right? So it's called edge case testing, and we do it in software development, but pen testers and offensive people also do it in order to test really the developer, to see if the developer did their due diligence to account for the scenarios that the pen tester is going to basically try on the machine, right? So curiosity is paramount for that, because it's, I'll admit you said I'm curious, and I think I appreciate that, but I don't know how curious I am, right? There's things that I find interesting and I want more of it, right? Like I understand I like that and I want more. The real talented people, and this is half the reason why I go to the Red Team Village at DEF CON. I'll be there next week. Half the reason I go there is because it is really the red team and like the people who are driving the red team, like the thought leaders in that space, they are incredibly curious. And like when you come up with like these, they use the term novel quite a bit, but like when you come up with these novel attacks, and it's like, Jesus, like it's so elegant and so simple. Like how come we never thought of that? But like, kudos to you, it's brilliant. And like I love that, because I can really appreciate that someone applied that curiosity and that knowledge to look at the problem from a different angle, right? So I feel like that's always it. It's like I'm almost too much of a conformist, where I'm like, okay, like to use that text field example again, like, all right, like it's got to be something we put in the text field. Well, what if you put in like a text editor, or not a text editor, like a web proxy like Burp Suite or something like that, and just remove the field altogether and submit it? What happens then? I mean, that's like, that's like looking at the box from like a weird angle or something like that, just completely outside the paradigm of like the conformist, right? So the conformist is like, we've got a field, we put something in the field. What can we put in the field? The really curious person is like, well, we got a field, but like, let's blow it up, or like let's do something completely weird to it that has nothing to do with the field. It's like attacking the app itself somehow. So curiosity is definitely paramount. But again, you don't have to be curious. I would argue that I think curiosity best serves the red side of the house, the pen testers, because they have to come up with creative ways to solve for the defensive solutions. But in the cat and mouse game that is the operational cybersecurity, right? So there's tons of roles in cyber, but the operational piece of defending the network or attacking a network or a system or whatever, the offensive side is always winning. They're always in the lead because they come up with an attack. They're going to buffer overflow, right? Let's go back in time. They're going to buffer overflow. So the defenders come up with DEP and ASLR. Okay. So then they're going to do ROPS, right? Okay. So then we're going to do control flow guard. Okay. Then we're going to do JOPS, right? So like it's always a cat and mouse game, but the cat is always that I feel like it's the attacker, because they're always coming up with ways to circumvent the existing set of defenses. Defenders aren't going to really ever put in a defensive control that addresses an attack that doesn't exist, because like that's insane, right? Like you could think of anything, right? So it's yeah. So that's the answer to that as far as curiosity goes.
Yeah. I love the whole thing. I feel like cybersecurity and being a cybersecurity professional is like you playing chess, right? Sometimes defending, sometimes attacking, but you gotta have a mix and you gotta try different strategies and looking things at different ways. So absolutely great answer. Thank you so much insights there. And back to your previous story, you also talk about networking, about how you met your friend and one conversation sparked improvements in your career, and you still keep in touch with your friend, right? So what do you want to say about the importance of networking in cybersecurity? Because there are a lot of people who think that, and it's nothing wrong with it, but there's an impression that if you want to be a cybersecurity professional, the only thing you need to care about is your technical skills, right? You only need to be a hardcore hacker or programmer, and then that's it. Don't worry about networking. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, there's a famous saying, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone, go with the team. And I think that kind of resonates here. You can be successful isolated, completely solo, right? But you're going to have a lot of challenge, right? And you can do cool technical stuff, but it's only cool. I mean, it's only practical from like putting food on your table if other people know that you can do that, right? So networking is critically important. And I'm gonna answer your question, and then I'm gonna give a couple actionable takeaways that people listening can use to better network. And I don't care if you're introverted or extroverted; they are practical tips for you. So networking is huge, and I'm going to tell you why. I've said this on other platforms before. There's two things. One, it's the exchange of ideas. I've been in this field for 17 years. There's a ton I don't know. And, instead of going out and becoming an awesome pen tester, I'm friends with Kim and I'm friends with John Helmus, right? Right? Excellent resources. And if I have a question, like I had one just recently about AWS S3 buckets and how to do something with them that I'm not going to get into, but I reached out to John. John authored a book on how to pen test AWS, right? He's an expert on that. Like, I know him. I'm good friends. I would call John Helmus a good friend of mine. I have never physically touched him or put eyes on him in real life, right? So it's that it doesn't have to be a physical thing. You can network with people you never meet. You can network with people that you never physically see. You can develop a good network on Discord or LinkedIn. So there's the scale power of having a network that has skills that complement your own, right? And you be the resource for some people on whatever it is that you're doing, right? Give and take, like be willing to do that. So that's one thing of the power of networking. The second thing, and probably the biggest thing, and this is something that I say all the time, is I don't have numbers to support this, but believe me, like half of jobs in the field go to people through networking, right? The job that my second job, the job that really like launched a career, that I was at that KPMG company, I was fully qualified to be a developer for that project for the Marine Corps. That job was in Virginia. I lived in Massachusetts. A family member of mine knew someone who was on that project and what happened to be talking to them and they said, oh, like we're really struggling because we need another developer. And he said, oh, my nephew develops code or does computers with software. I don't know what he does. Right. Okay. Like, is he a good worker? Is he a hard worker? Yeah. He's great. He was just lugging bricks not too long ago. So gave him my resume, perfect fit, flew down, got the job, right? So that job was never posted. And it's not like it was given to me because of nepotism or spoils or I didn't deserve it or anything like that. I found out about it through a network. It wasn't even ever posted, right? So that's another power of networking. And I'll tell you, you may say, oh, that's not fair or whatever. But like the reality is, like if I'm hiring a position, right? And I know somebody or candidate, or I know a group of people who might be a good fit for it. I'm going to check with them first, just from a real life perspective. Here are my options. I could post it. I could wait 2 weeks. I could maybe get some candidates, have HR go through all this, maybe do some interviews and stuff like that. So like we're talking 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, if we're moving quickly, that before I find out if I even have a candidate from this pool of anonymity. Whereas if I have a network of let's say six people that I know that are all completely qualified, looking for work and interested, and I can just talk to them directly and say, hey, like, I got this job coming up, are you interested? Like, would you be interested? Yeah, I'd be interested. So then we post the job, but like, I don't want to say it's hardwired for them, but those candidates apply. Like we've already basically interviewed them and kind of worked through it. So, and that happens all the time. Like 50% of the time, right? So it's not like you network for the selfish motivation of I'm going to align myself to all these people because one of them is going to give me a job. You have to, I don't know how to explain it, but that has a certain scent that everybody can smell, right? So that you should not have that as your motivation. You should be networking for growing a network, for meeting people, for learning about opportunities, for talking about what you like and what you don't like as far as the profession goes, right? Like where you're going, how you're doing it, maybe collaborate with some people in a hack the box room, maybe join a cyber club, whatever. And I assure you, these opportunities will end up presenting themselves at some point. I have no doubt in that. Now, actionable takeaways on how to network. Like, okay, Jerry, you've sold me. I'm in. Let's network. How do I do it? Okay, couple things. One, there is Discord servers, right? So you can join those. Like, you would never just like walk up to a cocktail party or bar, right? I guess people don't do cocktail parties. I'm too old for that. Bar. You wouldn't walk up to a bar with 4 people standing there talking and just like blurt, like blah, like I'm just going to take over this conversation. No, that would be like rude. But if you walk up, enter a Discord server, say hi, whatever, watch some of kind of the conversation. What are they talking about? And then introduce a perspective or a thought or ask a question, but be engaged. That being engaged, right? Even if you ask a question because you're a noob, right? A lot of people in our community are interested in helping other people in our community because we all, I don't care who you are, we all were that at some point, right? We all can identify, we all can empathize with wanting to know knowledge. I emailed 20 people in my company and just was like, can you help me? You know what I mean? Like they didn't all reply, and that's okay. That's okay. So the other thing that I would encourage you to do, if you're going to reach out directly to someone, reach out to me or someone on LinkedIn or whoever, because a lot of people reach out to me all the time. They say nice things and I appreciate that. Some of them say like, oh, I just like, help me get in cybersecurity. It's like very, very, flat and blank, right? I would encourage you to do what I did, right? So I'm speaking from experience. It worked for me. Like when I had that phone call with Ray Sturby, I had a couple, like I had already done my homework. I had tried to educate myself, and anywhere that I had an impediment or confusion or misunderstanding or what does this mean or what's this term, I wrote it down. So, and then sent that ahead of time. Like, here's what I'd like to talk. I was like, I'm really interested in what you know, but here are the things that I have found as a challenge. Now, 2 things happen there. 1, I get answers to my questions so I can move forward. 2, I have invested my own time into this conversation and done my own legwork. I've demonstrated my commitment to my end of this, call it what it is, mentoring relationship, right? He and I only had 1 call, so it was a hyper short mentoring relationship. So don't get wrapped around the axle that mentoring mentee is like this, like Obi-Wan and Luke relationship where you go until one of you dies. It can be super short, right? It can be super specific. But I demonstrated my commitment, my investment into wanting that knowledge. And, I think that's why he took as much time as he did with me that day, because I had done that. So if you're going to reach out to someone specifically or, or whatever, however you're going to do it through LinkedIn or Discord or what have you, come having done a little bit of the legwork. You can't be, I don't want to say lazy, but you can't be like just spoon fed. Like you can't be like, just tell me the shortest path and what I need to know so I can move on. It's much more like, because one of the questions is like, what do you want to do? Like like to your point, Kim, what's your passion? Like, what is getting you excited? Like, what have you found yourself looking into and that you're frustrated because you don't have the answer about what something is? Let's talk about that, because that tells me, like, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't want to talk to you about something that has no interest to you, because that's a waste of your time and mine. Like, let's talk about what you care about. Let's talk about what you're struggling with, and let's get those answers and move you forward. And then, like we'll grow together. Like I'll feel good that I helped you. You'll feel great because you have knowledge. And then who knows, maybe one day you'll be in a position to offer me a job and you'll reach out to me because of networking.
Totally love it. I totally agree about when reaching out to other people, right? And networking, how do you actually define networking, right? Because a lot of people just say, you need to network, but nobody ever really tell what exactly do I need to do or what exactly is networking. And a lot of people just, send out a bunch of messages that looks like it's a batch message, so it's not attractive to the one who receives it. So definitely that's a thing to not do. Right.
Let me share one more example with you, Kim. So there was a guy just the other day on LinkedIn. His name's Wade Patterson. I think he's younger. He's new. He wants to break into the field, and he posted something on LinkedIn, and it basically said, "Hey, I've been introverted. I've been really reluctant with networking. I don't really know how to do it. I'm just jumping in with both feet because at Gerald Auger told me that networking is important. I'm listening to him. I don't think I can add much value, but here I am, like bearing my soul to the world." Like it's something to the effect of that. That wasn't verbatim, but something like that. And I saw it and I said, you know what? Good on this guy. So I looked at his profile. He said in his title something like interested in OSINT hunting or OSINT guy, or I like OSINT, and so I replied to his message and I said, hey, like, that's great, man. Like, I see you're into OSINT. Like, what is it about OSINT that you're interested in? What gets you going about OSINT? Let's talk about that. And we ended up having a conversation in the thread, and other people started jumping in. And that was a good post. Like he provided some value. He talked about OSINT. Then he posted something else a couple of days later. I chimed in on that. And not to say that I'm pushing him or whatever, but like I saw that he made an effort and he wants to do it. And I want to help him do it. And I want to engage him personally. He didn't ask me for this. I wanted to engage him personally in what are his thoughts and what's his perspective, because I know he has one that can be valuable and interesting to both myself and our community. And and now I see him, like, this was just like a week or two ago, and now I see him all over the place on LinkedIn, chiming in. I feel like he got comfortable and he understood that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be intimidating. I feel like a lot of people are reluctant to make that first step because, if you get shut down or you get face palmed or you don't get a lot of likes or replies or whatever, you might feel like embarrassed, or you might feel like, well, what's the point? Like my opinion doesn't have value or whatever, which is total crap, because it absolutely does. No one has the same life experiences or perspective that you have. So anyways, it's a good story of like just a guy who started networking and now he's doing quite well with it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I always tell myself the sentence I always live by is never be the smartest person in the room, because I always believe that somebody has something for you to learn from, right? And exactly resonate to your story. There's always something to learn, and don't get pushed back if you feel like you reach out to a lot of people and they don't reach out. Sometimes people just don't get online, or they're just too busy and they forget your message. So not a big deal. Just keep going, right? So back to cybersecurity. If you have to choose, what would be a couple of your most favorite thing about cybersecurity?
Oh, wow. Oh my God. Get your popcorn, Kim. So, I mean, if I had to really choose, there's so much about it I love. Like, I mean, but I know this is like a cop-out answer, but like literally my favorite thing about the industry is the meta of it, the macro level of it, that it literally is constantly evolving, constantly changing very, very quickly, which is a detriment to trying to keep up and protect stuff. But if you look at IT, like things change, right? We went from on-prem infrastructure to cloud, and that was a big change. And like we're seeing firewalls go from appliances to like SD-WAN, or VPNs are going away and stuff like that. So like there is change in those industries, but I feel like it's slower, and you almost become a specialist in one thing, and that's kind of what you do. And as technology changes, you just kind of like dig in on what you got. With cybersecurity, it's like always fresh. Like we've reached a point now where it's super mainstream. There's like, news stories every day, ransomware here, ransomware that, these threat operators. The president of the United States is issuing executive orders and official memorandums around cybersecurity policy. So like it's exciting. It's like super cool. It's always interesting. And I mean, that's probably what gets me the most excited. You and I were talking before we hit record here that like, it's like at 6:30 in the morning, I'm making a cup of coffee and I'm like, oh, but like, look at this. Biden released this memo. I'm going to read this on industrial control systems. Like, sweet. Like, not even my niche. Like, I don't work. I mean, I do a little bit, but I'm not an industrial control system security person in any capacity. But I love the fact that there's movement in that niche of the industry. And, I shared it on LinkedIn. Here are my thoughts on this particular memo. And you can go so deep. That's like another thing, right? Like you could be a generalist. You could go so deep. You could be like an Android mobile app pen tester or an Android mobile app forensics expert, right? Like all you do is forensic dead disk on Android mobile devices or, Android operating system. Like if you wanted to be that niche, or you could be a pen tester, or you could be like more of what I am, which is kind of a general practitioner who gets his hands dirty in different things. I'm certainly not a master of any specific thing. I mean, you can make an argument that my specialty is in governance, risk, and compliance, especially as I go up the corporate ladder and kind of grow into the CISO role I got. So like that's fine. But like I love the blue side, the red side. I guess we're going to start saying there's a purple side kind of. It's always rewarding. Like I have absolutely zero need to learn penetration testing skills, but I took Keith Adams' practical ethical hacking course. By the way, not affiliated with him anyway, but that course is excellent. And I took it just for fun. Like that's how insane I am about cybersecurity. Like I take lab work for fun, and because I'm not going to get it professionally. I know that. And the only way to supplement it is to do it on my own. And it's very rewarding, right? So I just eat it up. And then on top of that, I can talk to people through SimplyCyber, which basically I know I'm helping a lot of people, which is fantastic. But like I get like for 3 or 4 hours a week, I get to like turn on the camera and just talk about anything I want cybersecurity. It's like the most gratifying experience. I'm like, yes, like what am I going to talk about? Like I have an episode on SimplyCyber on cyber insurance. It is probably my lowest performing video, and I don't care because it's my channel and I wanted to talk about cyber insurance that day. Apparently nobody else wants to hear about cyber insurance, but it was the topic du jour. So yeah, that's my passion. That's what drives me, or my favorite part of the field.
For whoever who's watching this on YouTube, I think people can really tell that you are really passionate about cybersecurity. Your eyes really sparks and you smile really big when you talk about this field, right? And speaking of being SimplyCyber and your channel, that's also related to my next question, which besides being a practitioner in this field, you and your SimplyCyber channel is very, very focused on educating people and helping people to get into this field, right? And that seems to be two of your activities that you do the most, right? Studying and teaching cybersecurity. So that's a mix between education and cybersecurity. So let's talk about having multiple passions, right? Because many people have the impression that for you to be successful in a career, you can only have one passion. So what's your take on that? Because apparently you have more than one.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can have completely disparate or, fundamentally distinct passions. Like I'm really into cybersecurity and I'm really into hang gliding, right? There's really no overlap of those two things. By the way, spoiler, I've never been hang gliding. It's just a point. But for me, because I'm so passionate about cybersecurity and in every dimension of it, and by the way, this is also going to be a spoiler alert on how you might be asking, how is it possible that I have so many jobs and I don't like explode or burn out? And this is going to get revealed in this. So I I have these passions, right? To promote education to people who want to break in the field, make it accessible. I teach at the Citadel, as you had mentioned in the intro, and that's a more form-fixed delivery of education, and also aligned with what I want to do when I retire. But the whole thing is overlapping all these passions, right? So, and this is how I save time. This is like a life hack, if you will. Like, so if I'm doing something for my job, my 9-to-5 job, where I'm protecting the organization, and just a hypothetical, so this isn't revealing anything about my work, but like, say we're deciding we're going to end up getting a forensics lab, and we're going to buy a $200,000 piece of forensic software, right? Well, it's incumbent upon me or the leader of the SecOps team, but like I would take it on to like evaluate the software. Okay, so like I want to learn it, so I'll get a trial or something like that or whatever. So I want to learn it, but then also I can take what I learn while I'm learning it, make a YouTube video about it, and share that knowledge with other people, which will reinforce my ability because I'm teaching it now, which is another way to like cement learning, right? Because if you can't tell someone how to do something, that means you don't understand how to do it. So then I get a YouTube video, I get to get skilled and experience in forensics work, and I end up doing my actual job, which is ultimately evaluating and selecting the proper tool to meet the needs of my organization, and being fiduciary responsibility with the money of the organization. So that's if you pull the curtain back, Kim, you're going to find that my passion is cybersecurity, and it's just basically like a rainbow, and like yellow is practicing, orange is educating, purple is self-study, green is like talking about it out loud. Like it's all one rainbow, but it looks like different passions. But if you actually look at it, it's just me being absolutely insane about cybersecurity as a field and leveraging every potential avenue I can in order to share it, discuss it, learn about it, and stuff like that. My to put it in practical. So I'm married, my wife, and I have kids, and my wife jokes that she could sit for the CISP right now. She's never worked in the field, but because I talk about it, we've been together so long that she could get certified with a CISP just from the sheer amount of that I talk about it in our life. So.
I totally love that. How you talk about exploring all the different aspects in a single field, and it just makes the whole thing looks totally different, right? So just because you're interested in one field, you don't have to focus on only one thing in particular in that field, and you can explore how you can come about in that specific career from different perspective. Totally loved it. All right, so I have so many questions for you. I could ask you all day, but time's limited. So for one last question before we are coming to the closing. So for people who are stepping into cybersecurity, what is your advice and insights about this field?
Yeah, so if you're coming into the field, a couple things. One, I mean, there's some basic stuff, right? So I know you might be coming from a non-IT background, and there are non-IT jobs in the field, right? So don't think you need to know IT, but I would strongly encourage you to get some exposure to operating systems and networking. And you don't have to be a computer science graduate, right? Just understand at a high level how a computer works. Like just understand what the memory is in a processor and stuff like that. Like again, it's more for familiarity and understanding. And certainly networking, right? So understanding how two computers talk to each other, and like the old age interview question, like when you type in google.com in a browser and hit return, and then the search engine comes up on your computer, what actually just happened, right? Again, you don't have to understand it at a level to speak to a computer science person, but you should conceptually understand what just happened. The reason, it's not to like weed out people who can't cut it with IT. The reason is when you're talking about defending or attacking, like you have to understand those things, because that's how attacks happen. That's how that's how you audit to see, like, did the attacker get in? How did they move laterally? Like, how would you know that unless you understood how two computers talk to each other, right? So that's the first thing, right? And you can go to cyberaces.org, which is SANS, a SANS resource that's free, and you can get some education on operating systems, networking, and a little bit of programming, which, again, you don't need to know how to program to be successful in cyber, but having some exposure certainly wouldn't hurt. That's step one. So that's developing some fundamental skills, right? Okay, so yes, so cyber aces for sure. Step two, networking. I think I've made it pretty clear the importance of it and a couple actionable approaches on how to do it. So definitely start networking. You're going to end up finding a lot of things and people and ideas and concepts and resources. Just as a plug, right? So if you go to SimplyCyber.io, which is the companion website to my YouTube channel, I have a free resources tab or section, which has like 1,000 free resources for cybersecurity, right? And again, don't get overwhelmed, right? Just know that it's there, bookmark it, and go back as you can. The next thing, step 4, I think, yeah. So this one's important, and this is one that I feel like a lot of people don't do or know, or they find out too late or whatever. Like, and it's kind of contrived, but like fail fast, right? So fail fast means like don't try to overanalyze what your path's going to be. Like dive in. Cybersecurity is very skills based, right? So lean into pen testing, right? And then either maybe you're not good at it, maybe it doesn't get you excited, maybe you suck at it, maybe you're good at it, but you don't like the community, right? Because each community has kind of its own vibe, right? So maybe you don't like that. Whatever, that's fine. You don't like it. Move on, but don't stay with it because you've invested 6 months and, well, I guess this is what I'm going to do. Like I want to get into cyber, so I'll just kind of accept and deal with all this stuff I don't like. Don't do that, because a lot of skills that you pick up on the red side are transferable, and the knowledge is definitely transferable on the blue side, for example. So you're not like walking 2 steps and then taking 2 steps fully back. You're really walking 2 steps and maybe taking a half step back and pivoting. So fail fast, because I feel like that's going to allow you to quickly identify things that you don't like, so you can spend more time finding things that you do like. And when you do find something you like, lean into it. Like there's a lot of breadth to different areas in the industry, right? So like, we'll take blue team for a second, right? So like, you've been told that you should be a SOC analyst, right? So you're like, okay, I got to be a SOC analyst. I'm studying SOC, I'm studying SIMs, I'm studying packet captures, et cetera, right? Okay, that's fine. But digital forensics is a subset. Also, malware analysis is a subset of the blue team, right? And it's more advanced, right? Obviously, but maybe while you're in there, you like kind of dabble or stick your toes in the malware analysis side, or you go get some education or whatever, and you find out that really gets you excited. You're still in the same vein, but now you're finding what you really love. So just keep looking around, keep sniffing. If you find something you like, dig or deeper, lean into it more, start talking to that particular community, right? Again, I've said it a couple times here. Like when we're talking about networking, yeah, you can network with the cybersecurity community, but within the cybersecurity community, there is very much a blue community. There's also within the blue community, there's a very much an industrial control system blue community. And within that, there's an energy sector, ICS blue community, right? So like there is a community at different levels for like, so as you find what you like, try to find that community too and network there, because it's gonna ramp up and expedite your ability to get more information, get more knowledge, get more skills, meet more people, find more jobs, right? If that's ultimately what we're talking about, is getting that job. And I think that's going to give you a huge advantage, way more than if you're just Googling a couple things and operating kind of in a silo.
Yeah, that's true. Googling, you can find a lot of information, but definitely talking to people really helps, brings a lot of idea. And even for me personally, even after I interview with some companies, right? And during the interview is where you realize that, oh, something I thought about myself maybe not correct, or the direction I'm going is maybe not the one. So talking to people is really always helping. I totally double on that. And speaking of networking and learning concepts, right? Just talking to you today, already feel like I have a quick intro about cybersecurity in general. But for the listeners who want to learn more about cybersecurity, and they will be interested in your Simply Cyber channel, can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about that one and where the listeners can access the resources?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're still listening, thank you. I really appreciate it. I love talking about this, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. If you go on YouTube and you look at Simply Cyber, I should come up, or Gerald Auger, although Simply Cyber is easy to remember. It'll come up. I post videos every single Monday. I've done it for like a year and a half now. It's always, the tagline is, it's a channel to help you make and take a cybersecurity career further, faster. And that is the mission statement whenever I make any videos. And sometimes sometimes I'll do a technical lab, like here's how we build a Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi. Sometimes I talk about the industry, right? Like here's what's going on with Biden's executive order. Sometimes it's here's how to do a resume, right? Like we'll do a resume review thing. Sometimes we interview experts because, as I mentioned before, I know there's a ton I don't know. So instead of me, soapboxing about something I'm not really an expert on, but I've got a little experience, why not just reach out because of my network, because of this awesome community, and bring in someone who spent 15 years learning pen testing or industrial control systems and talk to them. So if that's interesting to you, come check the channel out. If you like what you hear, you hit the sub button, because every Monday we're dropping something. Also, definitely Renegade style live streams. I've got a couple coming up that are scheduled that I'm promoting the heck out of. Kim, I don't know if when you're publishing this video, but I've got one coming up on August 12th with Deidre Diamond, who is the CEO and founder, and also just a wonderful woman. I love that woman, for Cyber SN. And they are actually, their whole platform is basically like a jobs search site, but they've changed the paradigm. So it's more like a dating website where you put in a profile, and employers put in profiles for jobs, and they have very strict criteria on how many points, like how many different roles they can pick. Because how a lot of the problems with job postings are, it's like a unicorn. It's like every single function in cybersecurity. Well, they force the employers to pick only like 5 categories or 5 skills, and then weight them on a percentage out of 100. And then the magic algorithm engine will map candidates to positions, right? Like a dating matching algorithm. And that way you don't spend all your time applying to 200 jobs that, like you thought you were fit for, but in reality, it was like copy pasta, and they weren't actually looking for anyone who did the things you did. So anyways, there's that. And then on September 2nd, I'm actually interviewing, I'm super pumped about this one as well. I'm interviewing a career CIA field ops officer who is an expert in money laundering. And he is now an expert in cryptocurrency, because as times changed, paying off dignitaries, or the way threat actors were doing illicit transactions, moved to crypto. So he's going to talk all about, his war stories and stuff like that. So it's going to be story time on that particular episode. I'm literally just going to go on mute and just let the guy go for an hour. So I'm super pumped about it. But yeah, so check it out. We're always having a good time over there. And if this interview has rubbed you the wrong way, you should probably not check out my channel, because it's just more me flipping out about cybersecurity.
I'm totally gonna follow that one. I'm totally gonna attend that episode. Monday laundry, and cryptocurrency. Oh my God, it is one of the hottest one right now, right? So
yeah,
I will not miss it out. Yeah, I'm sure the listeners will love your show. And if anyone wants to stay in touch with you, to ask you more questions or learn more from you, or just simply increase their network, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so go on LinkedIn. I'm very I post probably 5 or 6 times a day. I'm all, well, it depends on the day, but I'm all over LinkedIn, right? So Gerald Auger, Ph.D, I think is my what my name comes up as. If you just type in Auger, Auger, there aren't a lot of us. And I'll come up and just message me. If you say that you heard me on Passion Sets Success, let me know that, and I don't know, like I'll do something, like give you a free copy of my book or do a resume review or something like that. Tell me you heard me on Passion Sets Success.
Yes, please tell him. Please support my show too, right?
Yeah.
If you connect with Gerald, and let me know as well. I would love to know that this episode come to fruit of something. And so that's pretty much it for this episode. For the audience, you can totally find all the resources that we mentioned throughout the episode in the description of this episode. And thank you very much once again, Gerald, for joining Passion Says Success. I totally love your attitude, your humbleness, and all the knowledge that you are here to spread. So thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kim. I had a fantastic time.
Thank you for tuning in with Passion Says Success. Every week, we bring in a new episode with professionals who are successful in their career field. So don't miss it out. See you next Monday. Bye.